So we're heading into the final week of Dr. November, so I thought I'd do this kind of special video, something along the lines of the pen being mightier than the sword and authors in defense of the realm. Hello everybody, welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark, and I hope you're all doing very well indeed. The first real snowfall has come today, and we have a rather thin blanket of snow covering the fields, valleys and mountains here in eastern Bohemia. So yes, without further ado, let me crack on. And well, actually, before I do, may I encourage you to perhaps like the video if you enjoy my content so far, and maybe even subscribe if you are so inclined. That would be lovely. So yes, welcome. So authors in defense of the realm. Now, none of this is going to be particularly new to a lot of you, I'm sure. Many authors were indeed involved in wartime, be it on active service in the front lines or behind the scenes. And I thought I would get 7 authors for you to celebrate during Dr. November who were either direct field agents or somehow connected to espionage work during, well, in one case the First World War, in others the Second World War, and others the Cold War. So let's start off with William Somerset Maugham. I talked about him in my last video because I read this wonderful book Ashenden, which is a fictionalized version of his experiences as a spy during World War I. When he was recruited by MI6, he worked primarily in Switzerland doing undercover operations, but he was sent to Russia in 1917 to try to undermine the Bolsheviks and to try and prevent their revolution that occurred in October of that year. And as he says in the introduction to this book, that anyone would know that he was very unsuccessful in that particular task. He gathered intelligence, he reported on political developments as he saw them, and of course, as I mentioned already, those experiences form the basis of Ashenden, probably, I think, one of the finest realistic spy stories of that era that I had ever read. Cool, observational, dryly humorous, definitely a forerunner to the others that we have to talk about. So following Somerset Maugham and his real-life spy activities, we move into Ian Fleming, of course, the James Bond creator. And he was actually an assistant to the Director of Naval Intelligence. He helped to plan covert operations, deception campaigns, and intelligence strategy during the Second World War. He was not an active field agent like his character Bond, but he did have deep exposure to high-level espionage work, and of course these experiences would be very useful to him. Now, if you've read Operation Mincemeat by Ben McIntyre, you will know he features fairly heavily in that one deception too. So yeah, wonderful. There we go, Ian Fleming. Next up, we have the author of our group read for Dr. November, which is Graham Greene, who was also a spy. He was MI6's man in West Africa, on the West Africa station during the Second World War. He worked primarily in counter-espionage and intelligence analysis, and his handler was none other than Kim Philby. I've already made a video about the relationship of those two earlier on in Dr. November. So yeah, if you don't know, Kim Philby, of course, is one of the most notorious double agents in British history, spying for MI6, but actually all the while Moscow's man within the circus, to coin a phrase of our next person, which we'll be talking about in a minute. But of course, his experiences gave him insider knowledge and also perhaps to some degree moral sensitivity that allowed him to craft such wonderful novels like The Quiet American, Our Man in Havana, and things like that. And I think you can see clearly through some of his books as well how bureaucracy, ambiguity, and betrayal seem to dominate dominant themes throughout his work. Now, of course, following on from Greene, as you might have guessed because of the hint I just gave you, we're going to look at John le Carré, or aka David Cornwell. Now, Cornwell, sorry. He worked for MI5 initially in counterintelligence, and then he moved on to working for MI6 in West Germany. and his earlier book, Small Town in Germany, definitely probably influenced his career, influenced him in that. But his career was cut short due to said Kim Philby, who once he, of course, was unmasked as a traitor, and he could, pass on who MI6's people were in places like West Germany. Then John le Carré became, of course, or David Cornwell rather, became surplus to requirements and had to leave the service. Of course, it helped also that he'd just become a successful best-selling author, so that may well have cushioned the blow somewhat. But he, I think, is probably the most widely read and most popular espionage writer. I don't know if he's up there with Ian Fleming, or at least equal to, if not had surpassed him. He's very good. I'm not saying who my favourite is yet. Maybe one day I will make a video on that. But yeah, I think he definitely became an authority on Cold War espionage fiction, with especially The Spy Who Came In from the Cold and the Carla trilogy, especially this, the first book, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. So now we move on more to the people connected with that dark world, and some of them may surprise you, or maybe not. One of them is beloved children's author Roald Dahl, and this is part of his wartime service detailed in his biographical work here, Going Solo. Now, he was posted to Washington as part of something called the BSC, the British Security Coordination, and here Dahl conducted influence work, let's say, cultivating various contacts, gathering political intelligence, and shaping American opinion towards Britain at a crucial time when, of course, Britain wanted America to come into the war on their side. He was charismatic, socially gifted, and he became one of their most effective informal operatives. And in his years in Washington, he indirectly launched his writing career, and he knew Ian Fleming, I believe, as well as C.S. Forester, who may or may not be in this list a bit later. Moving on, we come to another wonderful writer, Evelyn Waugh, and this is his book here, Sword of Honor, which is actually, I think, 3 books in one. And again, his experiences in the Second World War helped him to craft this. And he was actually in SOE, which was a forerunner, well, not a forerunner, it was a special operations executive, which was involved with dropping secret agents into occupied Europe, and he also worked with the commandos, so he had quite a hairy time during the war. He was in various commando units and attached to intelligence-related missions in the Balkans. He drafted reports and carried out political liaison work. So he was brilliant and a brilliant observer of things, however, completely and terribly and woefully undiplomatic. So it didn't really make him very suited for more kind of covert work. But yeah, the chaos and absurdity of everything he witnessed does, of course, make an appearance in his book. I've just shown you, or books, Sword of Honor. And then last, we come to C.S. Forester. C.S. Forester here, who worked in the Ministry of Information during the war, and he produced propaganda and influential material, but particularly within the United States, where his work overlapped with BSC and overlapped with Roald Dahl. And it was through Forester that Dahl got a lot of encouragement to work with his writing. Of course, Forester was already an established writer by then, and his literary ability made him a perfect asset. He was not an espionage asset per se, but definitely a very valuable literary asset, and certainly his work overlapped with elements of espionage. So there we have it, 7 authors who worked tirelessly in defence of the realm of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. There we have it. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for watching. Do take care, and I shall be back soon. All the best. Bye for now.